Welcome back to a Tech Yes City live stream, and today we're going to be talking about the RX 7000 series GPUs, and we got here some rumored specs. And from what I've talked with people in the industry, and we'll also just hang around a little bit, make sure the live stream's working properly. There's no problems. Come join in on chat. Come say hello. Tweeted out a tweet to come join in as well. So once I see the chat start rolling, then we'll know that the Tech Yes City live stream is working absolutely fine. And what we got here today is 3 different SKUs of the RX 7000 series. That's what's going to be rumored to be launched later this year. And if anything, we're going to be talking about the trends here today about AMD in particular and their GPU division, which I find really fascinating actually, because AMD, they made the comeback on the CPUs with Ryzen. But cool, you guys are joining in on chat as well. So hello everyone, come join in, have some fun. We're going to talk about RX 7000 series today. And also we got some other news here in today's live stream as well. Apparently the US just unofficially entered a recession because, and I say unofficially now because they changed the definition of the meaning of the word recession. So I remember in university, we were taught a recession means 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. And so, or GDP decline. And now they're like, no, that's not what it means. Like, you've got a strong labor market. People are getting more jobs. We can't look at GDP numbers anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, wow, like really taking a step back here. Like, what's the point of even having a dictionary anymore when you can just change meanings on the fly? You know, like, hey, actually, speaking of that, do you guys think I should just send a email to YouTube? I should just send them an email and say to them, hey guys, like my channel's got 10 million subs. Can I get the 10 million sub play button? You know what I mean? Like, can I get that diamond one and see what they say? Like, that'd be pretty cool. Cause like apparently like the numbers that my channel is, like 500,000 subscribers, that's not real. Like, that's just fake. So anyway, we're gonna have a bit of fun here today in the stream as well. That's the main name of the game, is just to relax, chill out, ask questions if you've got some questions as well, and we'll move on to those after we get through the big news. And I'll be monitoring chat here as well. So Brian, are you graduated? If yes, and what? Yeah, so I did graduate way back long ago. 2006 I graduated, and I graduated in finance and marketing. So they were the 2 that I specialized in. And it's been such a, like, I really haven't used my degree in the real world. So that's been a funny thing. Like, and it's funny because most people I speak to who go to university end up studying for one thing and end up in a completely different industry as well. So it's kind of funny with that. But so we got this news here. The US is unofficially in a recession now. So I just thought that was just the craziest news coming out in like almost like, yeah, it's just crazy. If you guys follow economics, you'll know like something's really bad with this news. But that will tie in, right? This ties in perfectly to why, and this is another thing we'll talk about later in the stream. This ties in perfectly with what we're seeing with the high-end GPUs versus the low-end GPUs. But one thing that also hit me is that there's not a whole lot out there in terms of shipping volumes. Like, in terms of the actual shipping numbers, I would love to see this data so I could then put up graphs and correlate these numbers for you guys and really get an extra sort of look on the industry. And then we can make even more solid predictions to help you guys on when's the best time or whether you should wait out. But anyway, let's get these rumors out of the way with the RX 7000 series, because the RX 7000 series, actually, I would say, if we're looking at trends, this is in favor of AMD big time. And the reason why I sat back and looked at this was like, I would say AMD's doing a lot with their R&D research budget. AMD's actually pulling together some really special things with RDNA 2, right? I thought, like, when I remember going to like this thing in 2019 where they were talking about RDNA, and I was thinking, okay, like hopefully they can catch up to Nvidia or even get in the same sort of ballpark. And RDNA 1, people were saying it's going to be sort of just playing a little bit of catch up, then RDNA 2 is where it's going to be at. And that was exactly right. They really came back with RDNA 2 and sort of stuck it to Nvidia with now a GPU architecture that's back in the game. And that all happened within one generation, really. So if we look at the trends on how quickly AMD is catching up to Nvidia, they've got Nvidia now hot. They're hot on Nvidia's heels, and so like they're really going to get, I think, in this next generation, something that could possibly beat Nvidia. But that's just based on what we've seen with the previous generation. They've shown that, okay, they've shown that they've had a massive downtime, right? They didn't have a whole lot of R&D to work with. And I knew that. Analyzing AMD back in the past, you could see that they were really struggling for R&D cash. And so they allocated a lot of that to the CPU division and with Ryzen. And we saw massive gains on Ryzen CPUs. And so we got a $2 donation from Shampoo Time as well. Think Oz will go into a recession. I think the world's gonna go into a recession, my man. The numbers, I mean, if we look, okay, well, sorry to interlude with this, but if we look at the numbers, right, those inflation numbers, everyone's saying those inflation numbers are bogus. So what that means, right? GDP is generally a measure of inflation coupled in with actual growth. And if we're like, say for instance, if these people are indeed lying about the CPI numbers, which I think they're definitely lying about them in Australia, then what you're seeing is actually worse negative GDP growth than they're stating. And that's a scary thing, because it means like the economy's probably plunged 10% if you were to look at real like shadow stats inflation numbers, right? So it's huge. Like the ramifications of these misreporting inflation numbers is huge. And so I think Oz, if you were to look at real inflation numbers, could already be in a recession, right? And this is what people were saying. America was already in a recession because the inflation was so high and the GDP growth wasn't just there. So anyway, that's the scary thing. So anyhow, we've got AMD with Navi 31, so RDNA 3 GPUs. We'll get back to this. We'll get this out of the way with them. We'll get on to the juicy chat. You guys love chatting. I love chatting too, especially with a Asahi, and there's plenty of good Japanese beers as well. But let's get on to the Navi 31. This is going to be the big top dog. This one's rumored to come out first. And I like what AMD have done here. Finally, they're sort of differentiating their top GPU with 24 gigabytes of VRAM versus 16. So it's going to make the 7900 XT more desirable than the 7800 XT. And so this is what Nvidia did with the RTX 3090 versus the 3080. And you're probably like, Brian, you're a consumer. You should be like, no, we should be getting the top GPU as the second tier. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, they're a business, right? They do have to make money. So I sort of look at things from a business side, a business standpoint. And I'm saying, well, okay, hopefully they differentiate the 7900 XT, make it more desirable. So then they can sort of charge the people who want to get that top tier performance. Because believe it or not, guys, I know this might sound a bit weird, but it's the top tier people, the people who are really rich and just love blowing their money on day one. These guys actually inadvertently pay for a lot of the research and development because they're giving AMD, Nvidia, they're giving them the profits. And so it's like, that's why I kind of, in the past I've said this, I kind of encourage these super high-end models that are just a ripoff. Because if people go buy them, hey, that's great, because that means more cheaper GPUs technically on the mid-range for the rest of us. That's sort of how I compute it. And so basically, if people are handing Nvidia and AMD all this money for this real high-end cards, it means the mid-range is going to be better because these companies are going to have more money to swim in. So I'm all for it. But anyhow, we got here the 7700 XT, which is rumored to have 16 gigabytes of VRAM. That's a lot. Like, I mean, if they're saying it's going to be that much on a 7700 XT, then I think maybe AMD's performance on these GPUs could be bigger than ever. So that's insane. So look at these specs anyway. We've got here GPU size. The one thing as well, I don't know the power consumption on these GPUs too. They haven't really stated the power consumption. But what we're seeing here is a multi-chip module design. And you can see here, they've got the multiple chips, and sort of like if you were to look at Ryzen, it's sort of like a similar thing. They're using Infinity Cache, and they're essentially gluing together dies. I mean, I know Intel put out the infamous like bad analogy, but you know, you're gluing them together, you're sticking them together, and they're performing. They're giving out good performance. So we've got the top-end GPU here with 6 MCDs on board. And then you got the 7700 XT, which is going to have 4. Then you're going to have the single end GPU, which would just be 1, but that'll be like your entry level GPU. or your 7600 XT in this case, or your 7600. So there's no rumors on a 7500 XT. I mean, if AMD wants to make a GPU like the 6500 XT, I would just say don't even release it at all, because I have not, besides buying one and testing it out and ASRock sending me one in, I wouldn't recommend the 6500 XT or 6400 to anyone. That's just my opinion, because I just much rather go on the used market at that point in time. But these GPUs that stands coming out in December, so that's a really good news. If you guys are holding out for the next generation, that's really good news, because if you're looking to, say for instance, if you've been waiting for even the RTX 4090, this is going to apply pressure to Nvidia, and that's what we want. We want to see competition. So these specs, absolute behemoth from AMD. From what I hear from the grapevine, AMD actually has something big to come up with this later this year. So I'm really looking forward to this, and of course that's going to apply pressure to Nvidia. And now we've talked about Nvidia recently in a live stream, but apparently there's RTX 4000 series GPUs that are already heading to China. And so this means that these GPUs are coming out possibly sooner than expected. And I've said this in the past, I believe these GPUs would have come out sooner than later, because the fact that I believe these would have come out sooner than later, just based on the fact that, just gotta get my thoughts together. Sorry guys, we're having a bit of a brain fart on live stream. So because of the crypto, the massive surge in crypto sales. So Nvidia and AMD were selling GPUs hand over fist to crypto miners, and the only way to truly weed that out, the only way as a company to truly get rid of that demand and wipe it out, is to essentially release something that's so much better, even at the same price point, or charge a little bit more. And that's why I thought the RTX 4000 series would be actually a solid release, and same with the RX 7000 series. So I think these two GPU architectures are going to be big. AMD know and Nvidia know that times will get back to normal, especially when you've got the recession indicators showing that the economy's on the down. Essentially, there's going to be much less speculative money going into cryptocurrency this time around, which means much less profit for crypto miners. So that whole crypto demand comes in waves. And this time around with the RX 4000 series and the AMD RX 7000 series, that crypto demand is essentially not going to be there. So we're going to go back to the gamers. Essentially, this is how these companies are thinking. They're like scratching their heads like, we're to go back to the gamers now and release some GPUs, and hopefully they'll buy up all the demand. So that's sort of where it's looking like now, and the sooner the better, because they know if that price of Ethereum drops off a cliff, then those GPUs are going to flood the market, and they're going to flood the market with very cheap prices. Cheap, this is what I was saying, cheaper than what we're seeing now. But for me anyway, but for me personally, I think of it like this, and this is like a little bit of a point that we're going to raise midstream. There's a bit of spam going on there in chat. Sorry about that. Oh man. Someone already got onto that. Thanks guys. Someone already deleted those messages. Thanks for that. So this is the problem we're seeing here, is that basically I actually don't really care about the new gaming graphics cards. Very little, even if the performance is huge. I know people are like, oh man, are you not excited for the RTX 4090? And it's like, man, I just built my son a 1080p gaming PC, and he was just like, seeing his reaction, he was just so happy that he had this PC that could play Minecraft smoothly at 1080p. And seeing that reaction, it reminded me what this whole thing is all about. And it's about just getting an enjoyable experience. You don't need 4K 120 hertz OLED. As much as I love OLED 4K 120 hertz, and I'm guilty of sort of pushing it here on the channel, you don't need that to play games and have a really good time, especially with your friends and whatnot. So my thinking is, okay, who cares about the new generation? We've got GPUs that we're waiting on to come down in price, and when they come down in price, they're going to be such a good buy. And I know I'm going to be doing videos for you guys talking you through buying a lot of these crypto mine GPUs, because if the price is right, who cares? And I've seen other people say, oh, don't buy from crypto miners. Don't buy from the crypto miners, guys. You're rewarding them for the behavior that they pulled last year. I've heard this from a lot of different YouTubers that are saying don't buy, and just people on Twitter, don't buy from X miners. My advice here is there's only one person you need to buy from, and that's yourself. You need to buy yourself the best value. So who cares about AMD, Nvidia, or the crypto miners? You should just be, at any given time, you should be caring in a free market about what's the best value for you as an individual, whether that's coming from the used market or the new market. And of course, identifying what's the good value is part of looking at those memory sliders and the core clocks and looking at the condition of the graphics card itself. But one thing is, always reward yourself. Who cares about these cards? AMD and Nvidia are just as guilty of supplying the miners these cards as the crypto miners are themselves of buying them up. So never be confused with the two. Don't just say, oh, okay, it's just the miners' fault. The miners, I've always said this in the past, miners were a symptom of a disease, a much greater disease, known as the Federal Reserve. Anyhow, that's that done. So in terms of what's coming, we got huge news coming. Bring music down a smidge. Okay, we got Yusuf on the DJ Yusuf's coming on here. bring down the music just a smidge. Okay, I've done that for you, man. I brought it down just a smidge. Hopefully that's better. And anyway, so we're done with the rumors here. We'll get back to the rumors. And here we are here. AMD Navi 31 coming out later this year. This is the big one. I believe the pricing is going to be $1,199 because the 6900 XT was $999. And I think coupled in with what we've seen with the inflation, coupled in with seeing what Nvidia is doing with their pricing, I think AMD will want to, this generation, if they have something big. It remains to be seen who's going to be the top dog. But if AMD does indeed have top dog and they're coming out at $1,199, that's going to be a serious blow to Nvidia, where I heard that Nvidia is just going with monolithic dies as opposed to AMD going with multi-chip modules, and I heard Nvidia is not doing multi-chip modules until at least RTX 5000 series, which means that AMD could have a big chance of getting on top this time around. So that's what we're looking at with this potential upcoming generation of AMD GPUs. Of course, since they are MCM, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that they'll be actually a bit more power efficient than the Nvidia counterparts. And I'm personally looking forward to, of course, the mid-range, the 7700 XT. Just like I liked the 6700 XT, I thought it was a great card. I like the 7700 XT as well. Just by looking at the specs, seeing what we're getting here, and if you're patient enough, I think this card will be the one to get coming out in the next generation of GPUs. Now, in terms of, we also got a donation here. So keep up the good work, man. Hope you and your family are well. Yeah, thanks for the $5.08 donation. Very weird number. But yeah, the family is really good in Japan. We're definitely enjoying, I've definitely been having, I do have to apologize as well for the slowness of the content. Content has been coming a lot slower in the last couple of months, but that's because I've just been really, this was I guess it's sort of like a work holiday that's been long overdue. I've really needed to not just come and see my son, which is the most important thing, but I've also needed to just unwind and get away from being a single hermit, you know, running around all the time, just constantly fixing up used PCs. As much as I love fixing up used PCs, I needed, you know, spending time with my family is much more important. So that's been like a great break. Hopefully you guys are still enjoying the content that's coming out, and it's making a lot of sense as well. So that's what we've been doing in that sense. So they're the AMD rumors. Now, another rumor as well is that perhaps, see, we've got here the 18 gigabits per second. So they're using, perhaps they're using 18 gigabits per second GDDR6, but Samsung is apparently making GDDR6 with 24 gigabytes per second, or 20 gigabits, sorry, gigabits. You gotta make the big distinction there. I know someone will call me up in chat or in the comments, Brian, not gigabytes, gigabits. Get it, I know, completely understandable. 24 gigabits per second, and we got here GDDR6 from Samsung. So this is already, apparently it's coming out, and we could see this. I don't know if we'll see it on this generation of GPUs. Again, a lot of rumors, but the fact that Samsung made the 8 nanometer for Nvidia is actually very impressive. It means that they're coming in with a lot of mainstream tech that's coming in, not just from them going from, I mean, if you look at Samsung, right, you've gone from a company that's made TVs back in the day to now just being everything. Smartphones. My smartphone's a Samsung. Now they're coming in with factories. Man, Samsung are on top of their game. GDDR6 from them, 24 gigabits per second. and maybe that might be on the new graphics cards. I'm not too sure. More news on RDNA 3. Reportedly has a small graphics die, but there is a reason for it, and that's because they're using the MCM, or the memory complex die. So they're using different packaging there, and apparently it's going to drop the power consumption down a lot. So lots of rumors, and this one here, there's the preparing the naming scheme for the next generation GPUs. I think this company's just registering a heap of different names, because I find it odd that they would register an RTX 2050. I think that's a little bit odd. I just wouldn't imagine that an RTX 2050 would come out in 2022. So that last GPU there, I think they're just registering a heap of GPUs. Not much news to go on with there. But then we've got the MCD count here, 6. So that sort of points towards the rumors before that we're seeing with the Navi 31 is going to be absolutely huge. It's going to be a big GPU. It's going to be fast. Rumored GPU clock speeds of 3 gigahertz too. So that's the news in terms of what we're looking at with next generation stuff. But in terms of what we're looking at now with the economy and pricing, I was actually going to do this piece. I was going to do a piece on China. And I'm trying to gather behind the scenes as much research as I can. But China's sales numbers, man, they're trapped behind a closed door. I can't find any reliable information about the Chinese economy, except from what I hear about, like police hanging outside, stopping people from withdrawing their money from banks. Like, it really is surprising what's coming out, the news that's coming out of China right now. And so when I look at that news, I want to sort of analyze what's going on with the sales of GPUs in China. Because I think, just like America, I think things are slowing down. And I think coupled in with the strong US dollar, this is the reason you're seeing this massive amount of oversupply of these higher end cards. Nvidia and AMD, I thought they probably anticipated that 2021 would be just like, would continue on to 2022, in that sales of these higher end GPUs would just keep going to miners. Miners would just keep buying them up. There's going to be no end in sight until 2023. But of course, the Fed pulled away the punch bowl earlier this year. You saw that. Everyone was getting cheap money, getting drunk on that cheap money, cheap liquor. And then all of a sudden, the Federal Reserve just said, hey guys, we're taking away the punch bowl. Nvidia and Lisa Su, Jensen, they're all sitting around drinking that cheap alcohol, and they're like, wait, where's the next drink? Where's the next drink, guys? And the Federal Reserve's like, yo, time for a hangover, fellas. And that's what they got right now. AMD and Nvidia, especially on the GPU space, they're looking at one massive big hangover. And so we can see that. But another thing I noticed as well, another thing I looked at, and so we'll pull back here to the small screen. And with the, we'll pull back here, is that if you look at the RTX 3060s, right? Look at RTX 3060s. They're still 3060 Ti's as well. This is, I'd say arguably, this is the GPUs that people want. People want RTX 3060s. They want 3060 Ti's. And they also want them at a better price. But they're all over MSRP. All these cards are coming in at just such bad pricing. And this is why I was saying to people, don't buy these cards. They're overpriced. These are the models that people want. If we check out those Steam surveys, most people wanted, like the GTX 1060 is the most popular card. And out of the RTX 3000 series, the RTX 3060 is the most popular card. So they want that sort of $200, $300 card now with inflation, probably going to be around $300. People want these GPUs, but they're all over MSRP. 3060 Ti's, $480. We go down, I think the cheapest I saw for a 3060 before we started this live stream was around $400. I mean, it might have, I think 430. So you're just seeing the prices are just absolutely stupid. But then you look at the high end, they're coming down. Like these are well under MSRP, like $900 now for a 3080 Ti. And I think like that's, I mean, I made that video on like calling out Jay's 2 cents on that information about buy here today. That was like, I thought that was really bad advice, because we see here a week later after he made that video, he was telling you to go out and buy it right now. These prices are not going to last for more than a couple of days. A week later, it's $150 cheaper. So he already lost his viewers $150. I thought that was so irresponsible. And I'm surprised no one cares. Like, hey guys, every day just put out horrible information. I don't know. No one cares. So it's just like, I was kind of like taken back in the last week by that advice. And I thought it was just terrible advice, where I thought he should just at the very least, apologize to his viewers, at least the ones who went out and bought it day one, like he said, and now it's $150 cheaper. Jay's not going to refund you that difference. Who's going to refund you that difference? No one. It's gone. It's in the hands of the AIBs. So we saw that. Now the 3090 Ti, that's come down in price as well. Look at this. Asus is leading the way here. Looks like they've got an oversupply in the Asus Tough Gaming. 3090 Ti, now $1429. That's down $180 from 10 days ago. $1429. I don't recommend buying these cards at these prices. They're too expensive still. They're not a great buy. Again, the 3080 at $700 MSRP was the card to get on the higher end if you wanted good price performance. These cards are just not bringing that higher end price performance, even at their prices. I mean, $900 for a 3080 Ti, you're kind of getting close, but there's nothing special there still. But what I've noticed here, this is going to go back to the big crux here, is just look at these numbers, right? Economy's going down. I'm going to hazard a guess. I don't have proof. I've just got, intuition. That's the only thing we've got here, TechYos intuition. But I'm going to hazard a guess that the reason why these prices of 3060 Ti's and 3060s are higher and the prices of the higher end stuff is lower, the answer is looking at you guys right in the face. This time around with the RTX 3000 series, Nvidia made so many more higher end cards than they did in relation to the lower end cards. So typically they would have made so much more GTX 1060 like cards because they know that people had a price threshold. But this time around they're like, nah man, we're selling all these high end cards, just keep pumping them out, we're making mad money. And they've forgot about the fact that people want 3060 Ti's, they want 3060s. So the market's naturally setting that price and it's higher than MSRP because that's all that people can afford. They only have $400. They're not going to go out and even entertain the idea of looking at a 3080 Ti. Even though I'm sure a lot of you guys out there would be, well, I'd rather just save up, look for a used 3080. I mean, I'd much rather get a used 3080 than a 3060. At $580 that I picked up the Seahawk for, I'd much rather go get that card because it's much better value in my eyes than a 3060. It's going to cream the 3060 in the benchmarks. And of course, you've got a higher end card too. But again, people have thresholds. They don't want to save any longer. They've been saving for maybe months. They got $400. That's all they're going to go buy. And so there's a massive undersupply in these cards, and there's a massive oversupply in, you guessed it, 3080 Ti's. So that's where the sort of the crux of what the mistake that Nvidia's made is that the punch bowl got taken away by the Federal Reserve, and all these high-end, high-flying cards just aren't moving anymore. So it's a big problem. We got the RX 6600 though. In terms of AMD, they've definitely, I'd say they've made a lot more supply on these lower end cards. Maybe the binning process is different. But again, if you want to go out and get a decent GPU right now, RX 6600, I've been saying it for months and I'll keep saying it until we see the massive flood of those commercial crypto miner GPUs hit the market. And so this is the card to get if you want something that's pretty good value, it's going to do a solid job, and it's brand new. If you're into used cards, take a look at the used TechYos price performance, and we are good to go. Anyhow, guys, let's go over now to chat. We're going to move over to chat now, ask some Q&A questions, and also, oh, sorry, I can, okay. So we got Kim.net, Punch Bowl is back, Fed going to back off in and inflate once again. So, okay, so Punch Bowl is back. Fed gonna back off and inflate once again. Goodbye economy. Come to watch TechYos City for the out-of-date trash builds you do. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get back to doing some of those trashy builds. I love them. We got a under $500 banger coming up. We've also got kind of like, my son's build is not trash actually. It's really good. I built him this mini ITX build for about, off the top of my head, maybe about $650 RTX 2080. And yeah, like, so I mean, kind of like do you guys want like the $100 trashy builds, or what are we talking about here? Which kind of builds do we want? I can deliver. New Intel GPUs targeting the perfect market with their cards, maybe. So in terms of GPUs from Intel, all I'm seeing at the moment is like the A380. That came out, didn't really make much of a so in terms of the A380, I'd say it didn't make a bang at all. I'm waiting to see what their other GPUs will do, but I think Intel at the moment is definitely just trying to sort out their drivers. They're trying to sort out, I guess, where they want to go with their GPUs. So they're in a spot where I'd say they're still in maybe beta stage. Even though the GPUs are actually released and people can go buy them, they're in a weird stage where I'd say they're trying to weed out a lot of problems. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. They want to get their name out there. They want to make it known that they're coming into the GPU market. But at the same time, they also want to, I guess, perfect their drivers and make sure that they've got a good product for when the bigger stuff comes up. So anyway, joke stream title. Nah, stream title's not a joke. I don't joke around that much, but I'd say, yeah, the 7900 XT should be like 1199. I'd say that's where it's coming. And I'd say AMD are very serious. And that's what we talked about before, based on their ability with the RX 6000 series to catch up. Their ability to catch up to Nvidia in one generation. I'm actually really looking forward to what they've got in the next generation of GPUs. Now, of course, as others have stated in the chat, definitely got to look at in terms of what AMD, are they going to perfect their drivers? Are they going to, I mean, they've stuck with their Adrenaline software. I do prefer Nvidia drivers, using this as a workstation, doing what I do with the workstation. I do say AMD, I'd like to see AMD do sort of change things up with their drivers a little bit. It's a personal pet peeve, but in terms of what they got with terms of raw rasterization and performance for the dollar, RX 6600 is definitely looking like it's winning the cake. 2060 versus 6600 from AMD, which one would win? I have a 2060 currently. Also, Airbus is probably not happy that Intel has an A380. Yeah, the airplane company is probably not happy that Intel does have that A380 out there. Who knows? But as long as it doesn't sound like an Airbus, it should be okay in my eyes. But in terms of the 6600, should beat a 2060 easily. Should be a card that beats a 2060 easily. So what's my personal specs of my PC at the moment? I have a 12900K undervolted and 3080 Ti undervolted. Both were review samples. I did review them, and then I decided to make a mini ITX rig out of them. And that's my travel PC for running around. So yeah, that's my current specs of my current rig. Let's have a look. What else are you guys? Loving the Japan hustle videos. Do you speak Japanese? Hai, Nihongo hanashimasu yo. Nante ite hoshii no. And if you guys looking to upgrade from RTX 2060 to 1440p, what would be the best GPU to buy or wait? So if you're looking to upgrade from a 2060 to 1440p, I would wait. I'd just wait. You're in a good position right now. RTX 2060 is awesome. It's a nice card. It's going to play games really well. Wait a couple of months. That's all I'm going to say. Wait a couple of months. There doesn't look like there's any problems at the moment in terms of GPU supply. I don't forecast any problems happening, in that if the printers start back up again, there's going to be, like, in terms of like macroeconomics, everyone knows if those printers start back up again, it's going to be absolute chaos in terms of what we got right now is bad. What we got right now is pretty bad. But if you start the printers back up again, it's going to be chaos. And so I think they know that. So it depends on which way the Federal Reserve wants to go. And what a crazy economy in 2022. All eyes are on a central bank. What about a 1060? 1060, you're getting a bit outdated. Getting a bit outdated, my man there. I mean, 1060 is pretty... 1660 Super is pretty solid. 1060 depends on what... I'd hold out again. Not a bad card, though, man. You can make a lot with a little out of a 1060. Oh, 6900 XT. Oh, okay, I got to change the title. My bad. Did I mess the title up? Okay. Hold on, guys. I must have messed the title up there. I thought I... Okay. That's why people are complaining. Wait, RX 7000 series. What happened there? Oh, 7900 XT. That's bad. Okay, yeah, sorry. I was off the cuff there. There we go, we fixed it. All right. Sorry. We got that one done. Thanks for that. I didn't notice the typo. I'm a little bit dyslexic when it comes to that sort of stuff. What about the war on blockade on Taiwan? Very possible. TSMC out of commission. What then? Again, yeah, if you start seeing big problems like that, there's going to be much more in terms of your daily life. If there start being blockades on Taiwan, then there's going to be blockades in other countries as well. And so that means the cost of power will start surging even more. So at the moment, we're in this big cluster, roller coaster ride, man, roller coaster ride. So yeah, I'd say don't worry too much. I mean, even then, there's still back supply. Like, if you have China hitting up TSMC, if you have China coming over and hitting up TSMC and blocking exports, then what you're going to see then is actually the problem will start existing of, I'd hate to say it, but there's much more global implications in terms of America versus a different country. We're not going to go into there onto the live stream, but yeah, in terms of if that happens, there's going to be much more problems in getting a GPU at MSRP. That's all I'm going to say. An Nvidia 30, it's like, the world's burning down. People are just not getting access to food, water, power's getting turned off. But it's like, hey, I got my RTX 3060, guys, at $329. I mean, that could be a reality. Like, that could be a meme that you go see coming forward. But I don't want to look at that scenario. I don't want to think about that scenario. So yeah, because everything I analyze right now is like, we're going down. So like, maybe the tune of Tech Yes videos lately has been a little, I mean, I'm good in terms of my health and everything. I'm staying positive, but when you look at the greater picture, it doesn't look good, does it? So like, I think I want to try and just put the news out there and then stay positive, be positive about negative news. I know that's hard to do, but maybe that's where we're going with this channel. Hey guys, the world's ending, but let's stay positive about it, okay? Hey Brian, good morning. You still in Japan? Yeah, still in Japan, my man. Still here, and in terms of like, I'm gonna be here until I can try and get a permanent visa sorted out. And that means that I can go back to Australia and I don't have to worry about being locked out for 2 years, 2.5 years where I can't see my son, because it was an absolute nightmare getting here, to be honest. And so that was the biggest problem with Japan and what was going on. So that was a huge problem. I really didn't want to go through that again. Took me months to get a visa, and then even now, like, they're like, oh, tourism's open back up in Japan. It's open, guys. It's not open. Like, people can't get over here. They've got to manually go get visas, and the process to get those visas is very difficult. So we had a $20 donation. Thank you, Brockies. Any chance you could do a benchmark with a 3080 or 3090 with a 9th gen 9900K CPU? Also have a great time with your son. Can't wait for the next year when you get to see can't wait for next year when I get to go see my daughter and grandson in USA. Been 3 years now. Yeah, man, that sucks. So feel your pain there in terms of not seeing family members for such a long time. I wish you all the best in getting over there and going see them. In terms of the 9900K, I'll have to look for a CPU on the used market in terms of what the 9th gen can do. But if you're going with a 3080 or a 3090, I can tell you off the top of my head, when you go to 4K, you're not going to have any problems. So like, going to 4K, there's going to be absolutely no problems for you, because when you go up to 4K, it's less CPU bound, more GPU bound. And the 3080 and 3090, if you're going to buy those CPUs, GPUs should be at least going for 1440p high refresh. So that's all. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much, but I'll see what I can do. Since you are a loyal Tech Yes member, I'll see what I can do in terms of finding stuff on the used market. But in terms of benchmarks, what else do you guys want to see in terms of benchmarking? I was actually very curious to check out the 1060's performance versus, say, the RX 6400 versus, say, RTX 3050. The sort of the newer cheap, I guess Nvidia's cheapest card, the 3050, is still over $300. Not really cheap, but at least AMD's 6400's coming in at under $200. So I don't recommend buying it, but it'd be good to see the performance of a 1060 versus those other cheaper cards that are out there on the market. So that's sort of like on my mind at the moment. My undervolt keeps changing when I apply it, any solutions. So it depends on what you're trying to undervolt. Is it a CPU? Is it a GPU? We got Shovel Est. Can I find cheap CPUs in Akihabara these days? Yeah, actually Akihabara is really good for buying used parts now. I also found the local place for buying used parts. It's about a 40-minute, 30-minute drive. I found that place, and oh no, spambots. So we found, yeah, sorry about that, guys. You got these crazy, like, I cannot believe, sorry, a little bit of a midway rant here during live stream. I can't believe YouTube still hasn't fixed all these stupid bots that come on the channel and write these comments and spam people and reply to people. It's just like, YouTube, it's been going on now for literally years. Like literally years these bots have been going on now. And it's like, you know, YouTube will ban you if you say the wrong text in a title. Like, hey man, we're gonna stop this video. We're gonna demonetize it. But when it comes to like these spam bots, they get through, and sometimes they can even post links. Unbelievable. So anyway, so we get back to that. Sorry, there was the question. I missed it right before it. So right before I went on the tangent there, the undervolt. Sorry, the undervolt. Yeah, you have to let us know what your undervolt's about. So what is it? A GPU? Is it a CPU? In terms of GPUs, if you're using MSI Afterburner, say on an Nvidia graphics card, or AMD's undervolting, if it's on adrenaline, you've got to be making sure the undervolt's stable. Otherwise, what will happen is the adrenaline software will crash out, and then that'll reset the GPU. And if you save that as a profile, every time you boot up your PC, the undervolt will crash out, reset, and then it won't be an undervolt. So you've got to make sure that the undervolt's stable on the adrenaline software, which is another pet peeve. And this is like, sorry, I talked about AMD drivers before, but this was another pet peeve of AMD's drivers, is that you don't know if your undervolt's on, like, just crashed and it's reset, because sometimes it's so stealth-like. As opposed to Afterburner, you've got this little program and you're like, hey, my undervolt's not locked in. You've got the live monitoring there to tell you as well. I mean, you can live monitor with adrenaline software as well, but the Afterburner does do a better job of undervolting cards. And that's sort of, if you try to undervolt with Afterburner with an AMD card, it's going to be a pain in the bum. An absolute pain in the bum. We got here for Commodore Fan 64. How are you, man? Thanks for the $5 donation. How about some extreme budget builds with Linux to save money and revive some old hardware? As Linux gaming has gotten some really good traction via Steam, in my honest opinion. Yeah, like Linux is one of those things where I tried it years ago and I was like, I was such a Windows noob that I've really got to revisit that. And so what would be, okay, so if you guys are into Linux and what's the easiest sort of, in terms of the most efficient, if you're coming from Windows, what would be the easiest transition OS? Because I know there's like, isn't there all these different Linux modules out there you can download, like Linux Mint, Linux this, Linux that. So what would be the easiest transition? Linux Mint, okay, so Linux Mint, Ubuntu, okay, Mint, okay. So Linux Mint, that's, all right, Mint seems to win, okay. Okay, so, yeah, so Linux Mint, okay. All right, we'll give Linux Mint a go on a budget PC, and we'll actually do 2 videos, because what we'll do is we'll build a Linux Mint gaming PC. It's going to be Mint, of course, and absolute Mint price performance, and then we're going to compare it to Windows. I think that'd be a good take. What games are you guys interested in? You're seeing most played multiplayer titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, or you can't stand them? I mean, I do love Dota 2, so I am pretty... I do have an affinity to Dota 2. I do like that game. It's a very good game. Very fun. I mean, that's because Heroes in New Earth died and stuff like that, and I'm waiting on a new sort of Dota 2 game to come out, but let's... Yeah. Ubuntu is one of the most I'm comfortable with. So, but it looked like Mint won there, so we're going to go with Linux Mint. You guys were like, that was overwhelming. People just like spamming Mint, so... okay, so have you ever heard of DCS? Isn't that... I've heard of the brand. Is it a brand? Sorry, my kid took my keyboard as well, my son. I don't have a keyboard on this live stream, guys, so I can't just scroll over without going to my main setup over there. So my kid stole my keyboard with his little setup. So I've actually got to go get another keyboard. So DCS. No, he didn't take the Ergo. I'm not letting him take my Ergo, but he took the Corsair keyboard. So my son, he just taxed it, man. And he got the Razer Viper MIDI. So that video will be coming out soon. Did a video with my son. We built him RTX 2080 i3-12100 mini ITX PC for his first PC. And I thought it came out pretty, it was pretty banger, man. Pretty banger. And in the process, I tried putting, yeah, I did get robbed, eh? He taxed it, exactly. He taxed it off me, man. Man, that might be a, yeah, do you guys use that in Australia, in the US and the UK? Sorry, it's slang in Australia. If you tax something off someone, you steal it, right? Because, if we look at the modern day tax system, it's essentially theft, right? So, when you tax something off someone, you steal it off them. That's just Aussie slang. So it's hey man, he taxed my keyboard. So yeah, he did. It's gone. That's it. So you guys can start using it in the US as well. Yeah, taxing a ciggy. Yeah, tax a cigarette off someone. Because cigarettes in Australia are in Japan, a pack of cigarettes is $5, right? In Australia, a pack of cigarettes, you guys are probably going to be shocked if you don't live in Australia. A pack of cigarettes in Australia is $50. It's gone up. It's nearly $50. So, yeah, basically in Australia, it's sad because typically a lot of people who smoke are just your ordinary workers. But now it's becoming a luxury to smoke in Australia, actual luxury. And it's been getting worse and worse. Yeah, $50 for a pack of ciggies in Australia. So there used to be in early 2000s, this was the scariest thing. In early 2000s, when you went out, I never forget this, when you went out on the town and you had a few drinks, you'd sometimes see someone smoking a durry. A durry's a cigarette, sorry. We call a cigarette a durry in Australia. You'd sometimes see people smoking a durry, and you'd just be like, I'm drunk, gonna go ask this guy for a cigarette. And that, the rule was back in early 2000s, the rule was you gave someone $1. If you got a cigarette off him, you just gave him $1. Thanks, man, here's $1. And nowadays, it's $20. Hold on, Brocky's thoughts. It's tax durry in AU. And here's some cash for a new keyboard. Thanks, Brockies. Yeah, it's taxing a durry, that's it. So, and so yeah, back to the story of taxing a durry, right? You'd usually give someone $1 because you're okay, they're making a bit of profit, right? Because a pack of cigarettes used to be $15 in early 2000s. Now, it's you don't give someone $1 for a cigarette in Australia. It's an insult because one cigarette is $2 out of that dude's pack of cigarettes. So nowadays, if you're out in the town and you want to ask someone for a cigarette, yeah, it's it's at least $2. It's ridiculous, man, because that's the Australia and smoking. So yeah. Man, there's nothing that's ever more temporary than a new tax. Don't forget that, guys. You always see taxes going up on things, but you're never going to see them going down. Speaking of taxes too, in Australia, taxes have been pretty consistent, except they do like to tax those things. But in Japan, the tax rates on food food went up to 8%, and then just general goods. So if I go buy a graphics card, that's going to be 10%. So taxes went up a lot on various different items in Japan from 5%. When I used to live here, it used to be 5%, now up to 10%. So Japan's really sort of come into that new normal of 10% GST, but I'd say overall taxes are still a lot cheaper in Japan than Australia, especially if you're trading. And so this is why Japan has a real big affinity to cryptocurrencies, if you guys didn't know. Japan essentially has, I think it's a 5% rule, where if you trade and you make profit, you can pay just 5% flat tax. I don't know if that system's changed or what it was like in the past, but it was very cheap for people who wanted to live in a first world country, have great amenities and pay lower taxes if they're a real guru, and make money on trading, and if they were really good at that stuff. So you'll see Japan is kind of like, in ways, a hub for a lot of traders, which I think some of those crypto traders definitely ended up being part of being based in Japan. I mean, if you remember the Mt. Gox, I think they were based in Japan as well. So that's because the taxes were a lot cheaper over here. So anyway, could you explain undervolting Nvidia GPUs like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old? Don't quite understand what I'm seeing on graph in the guide video. Okay, so we're going to explain undervolting GPUs really quickly. What you're doing is, out of the box, there's a thing called standard deviations, right? Nvidia and AMD will release these graphics cards, and so what they'll do is there'll be a sweet spot for voltage and clock speeds, and after that you'll start getting heavy diminishing returns. Actually, this is hard to explain to a 5-year-old because a 5-year-old wouldn't understand diminishing returns and all that. Oh no. Okay, I don't know how to explain this then to a 5-year-old, because undervolting, basically what you're doing is AMD and Nvidia released bad settings out of the box. They released bad settings in terms of the clock speeds versus the power consumption they use. Now, what we're doing with undervolting is we're dropping the clock speeds a little bit, not too much, most of the time it's just a little bit, but we're dropping the voltage significantly. And what that does is it allows the card to run at near the same performance, but using a lot less power. So hopefully that was the best explanation then. So what you do is you've got to use voltage curves in preferably MSI Afterburner. In AMD, they've got their different settings. We did a guide on that. I'm still working on the Intel undervolting tutorial. I actually did the Nvidia undervolting tutorial, but I accidentally deleted it, and so I've got to re-upload it and redo it. But the Intel undervolting tutorial, that's taking some time because I'm trying to correlate just how this CPU exactly works. It's a very weird beast where you can have a 12900K going from 4.9, 4.8 gigahertz down to 4.8 gigahertz and dropping half its power consumption, which is absolutely huge. But then you go to a 10600 and you drop it, say, 200 megahertz, but you can only drop it like a couple of watts, 20 watts. So I'm having the Intel 12th gen is the hardest one I'm having a problem with, because it seems like either Intel have done such a good job at binning their chips. They're doing such a good job at, okay, is my PC lagging or is your stream lagging once in a while? It's like missing frames or something, then going back to normal and back to skipping frames. Yeah, I'm noticing something. What's going on with the live stream? I'm noticing something's happening with... It's very weird. Like, I've got a graph of, like, I'm monitoring the YouTube live stats, and it just seems to have these crashes. So it's probably YouTube servers where you're at. So usually it's YouTube, because my internet is gigabit fiber, man. That thing ain't missing a beat. So yeah, it's probably just YouTube, man, where you are and their servers. So what we've got, anyway, back to the undervolting thing with the 12th gen. It's so weird because it feels like Intel's done an extremely, I dare say, an extremely good job of binning the chips this time around. And that would make sense because the 12900K is such a better piece of silicon. Is such a better piece of silicon than the 12, say a 12600. So it's just, yeah, I've still got to do more research on that. But the biggest difference with 12th gen for undervolting is what I'm finding is using a really good cooler. That's the biggest thing I'm finding so far. Anyhow, guys, we will answer questions for maybe another 10-20 minutes. You guys stay and chat, ask whatever you want, and we'll get onto it. This time around, people actually want to know more about tech. Last time it was economics. Now it's more about tech. I would have thought maybe you guys wanted to know more about economics with the recent unofficial recession that the US has entered. I found a deal on Coolermaster H500 for $65. Should I buy it or skip it? Depends where you are. If you're in the US, I'd say go buy it because cases are actually quite expensive in the US. And okay, so okay. people don't want to know about economics this time. Okay. So, but I'm looking at, okay, so I'm looking at the economics, and I'm sort of looking at that in terms of when's the best time to buy some PC parts. And so that's why I'm sort of going on this different tangent here at Tech Yes City. So, I mean, it's funny, you know, I did a video talking about the 9.1% inflation in America. And that video actually, even though it didn't do that well in terms of views, it did really well in terms of the people who subscribed versus the view count, which was funny. So that was really interesting, because that was like, I was like, wow, okay, so if, in other words, if I keep putting out economic content, my subscriber base will grow much more faster than it is putting out tech content, or at least linking the two together. So that was I thought that was a funny thing that I analyzed from that one video, that the 9.1% inflation. So $200 9700K, a worthwhile upgrade from a 9600K for someone wanting to do content creation and programming. I don't want to change platform just yet. Try and find a is it the 9900F or something? The 9900. I would go for the extra hyperthreads for content creation. Like if you're doing video editing, try and get the hyperthreading. It does make a big difference. That's what I'd go for. So as soon as you had content creation, I'd try and get the hyperthreading just to stick on the same platform. You can find a really good deal on the 9900. Sorry, not the 9900F. I should have just said the 9900. 9900. I think I did a video on the 9900T as well. There was actually some good options out there. Sorry, you do want the iGPU for content creation, so ignore the F. Yeah, so that was that one. Is 560 Great British Pounds a fair price for Asus 6800 Tough? It's okay. I don't think it's the best deal, but seems okay. People from the UK have been telling me though, folks from the UK have been telling me that the prices in UK are starting to drop. So that's a good sign. So if you're in the UK, it looks like you'll be able to get a really good deal on a GPU. And I think mainly because I say there'll be a big crypto mining base in the UK, at least from, this is going to talk about back in the day with 2018, way back in the day, 2018. Way back in the day, I know a lot of crypto miners were talking from the UK. So the UK does have a big cryptocurrency sort of fan base. So with that fan base means there's a lot of cards over there. So do expect prices to come down in the UK just like the US and just like Australia. So I think power was cheap in the UK, but I think now it's going up big time. And have you ever tried adapting an all-in-one from using the AM4 2-point mount to a 4-point like Intel? The 2-point plastic mounts seem inefficient. No, I haven't tried that. I've tried some janky stuff with coolers, but in terms of the 2-point mounts, I've only ever really used the Corsair coolers on the 2-point mounts for the AMD system, and that does a fine job. Corsair actually do a really good job on that. So Kenton just got an Asus for the Win 3080 for $500. $5 donation. Thank you, brother. Did I get a good deal, or do you think prices will fall further? I've waited since launch to get something. Yeah, I mean, dude, Asus 3080 is for $500 is solid, man. If you looked at the Seahawk I got for $580, if I'm buying that for $580, man, anything under that is pretty solid. Like, you've got a good deal there. That's actually pretty solid, man. 3080, $500, not bad. So can't really go wrong with that. So, and then Joe somebody says he got his 3080 for $100. Joe, did you buy the actual picture off eBay, or did you get the card itself? Because we're not talking about getting the picture, we're talking about getting the graphics card. So yeah, that's a pretty good deal, Kenton. That's a good deal. Solid deal, as long as it works. And also test the memory slider as well, man. I urge you guys, anytime you're buying a used card, more than ever, especially if it's a used RTX 3000 card, especially digital edition, yeah, that's the one. Especially if he's buying the Used cards, always at this point in time, check that memory slider. Check the memory slider. If it goes up 20 megahertz and it crashes out, you've potentially got yourself a GPU that doesn't have a long life left in it. So super important now to, very important right now to make sure when you buy used GPUs to check those memory sliders. That's all I can say there. Powell confirmed we are not going for a soft landing in the USA. It's time to buy a GPU now because later you would want more cash on hand. What are your thoughts? Well, no, if cash is basically, if Powell's not, if Jerome Powell, this is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of America, if he is saying that we're not having a soft landing, if things are going to get a lot worse, then basically cash is going to get worth more value. So if they do, like, this is the thing, if the Federal Reserve do decide to start properly selling bonds and start taking money out of the system, quantitative tightening, if they decide to start destroying money, then you will see cash will become more scarce. And there's another big thing that no one talks about with this cash, the whole cash debacle, right? When it comes to cash, in those booms, like when we look at 2021 and you saw those two peaks, who do you think's taking all the money out of the system? All these rich fat cats. I mean, even Elon Musk went and laughed about selling his Tesla stock at $1,100. He knew that was a peak. He knew that was a peak for Tesla. He's like, wow, this thing's like, what is it? What was the PE ratio of Tesla? Like, it was over the hundreds, like hundreds. So he knew the company was way overvalued. And Asus, yeah, I just call it Asus way back in the day. That's when, if you first got into tech, guys, it was called Asus. It wasn't called Asus. Like, Asus try to tell me, oh, it's Asus, but you speak to the OGs in Asus and they say, yeah, it was Asus back in the day. And it's like, man, I don't do that whole politically correct stuff. You know what I mean? You come to Tech Yes City, you're just going to get it straight how it is. I think going along with all that crap is, going along with all that stuff is just feeding into it, right? So that's what it used to be like. It used to be just called Asus because it came from Pegasus or whatever it was. I don't know. Anyway, Asus, baby. That's where I'm calling it, man. Sounds badass too. That's the thing. It's like, I was watching this documentary on Dan Cooper on Netflix. It's actually a really good documentary. DB Cooper. They made a typo, and they were like, you know, it's Dan Cooper, guys. And the media was like, doesn't matter. DB Cooper sounds badass. And they all went with DB Cooper. So I was like, yeah, I'd go with DB Cooper as well. You know, like, this guy's raising up the decibels. You know what I mean? He's shaking the scene up with some high DB, as opposed to just Dan. It's like, well, everyone knows Dan. Dan's the man. You know, like, I know 20 Dans. I don't know any DB Coopers. So it's like, you know, that's what you got to go with. Zeus sounds badass, man. Asus. Hey guys, we got the new Asus. Like Ace in the hole. Us. Anyway, guys. Man, where's it? Like, as always, as we get to the tail end of the live stream, we just go off on these weird tangents. We're talking about, okay, we're talking about cash becoming worthless. So someone's Tweedle says cash is going to become worthless. Cash will be worthless if they change the whole monetary system around. So, like, there's so many things that can happen going forward, right? If cash is to get worthless, what will happen is there'll be a different currency. So, like, you'll say, okay, we're moving to a global denominated dollar system, and this is the new dollar. They'll call it ND. Instead of the US dollar, it'll be the new dollar. That'll be the ND. And so you've got to then trade in all your cash in USD, and we'll give you X amount of new dollars. So this is possibly where a new system could go. Yeah, CBDC, whatever they want to call it. I'm just giving you guys an example. And so what they'll do is cash won't be worthless, because at that stage, these elite folks will give you the option, just like they did with gold and confiscating gold, to trade it in and get that particular amount of whatever they're going with. So I personally love cash. I like the cash system. Again, governments don't realize the problem with the CBDC. See, and this is the problem. The governments don't get it, right? governments don't get the problem with the CBDC. The central banks don't get the problem with the CBDC. And that is, they're the problem. We need less governments. We need less central banks. We need less of this stuff, more free market. That's what we need. More proper free market. Less of this stuff, less governments, less CBDCs, less guys monitoring us with surveillance cameras, less all this, less of that stuff, more free market, more going out with the boys, not having to worry about what you said when you were drunk and you could have got cancelled for the rest of your life. That's one reason why I've sort of people like, Brian, do more live streams. I love it. Problem is, if I slip up and say something bad on live stream, or that's perceived as, even though I don't think it's bad, if it's perceived as bad by the greater woke crowd out there, I'm done. There's my career. All my sponsors will run away. They'll be gone. They'll be taking an exit door, and I don't know. That's where it goes. So yeah, less governments, more free market. Bang. That's what we need. No, Republicans are different, man. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a left wing, right wing. I don't do you think? Oh man, we're getting back to it. I'm what you call an outsider. I want to be in the free market. Republicans have printed money just like the Democrats have printed money. If you guys look at America, they were printing money. They were doing all these poor politicians now aren't being fiscally responsible with your money. That's all it is. They're not being fiscally responsible. It's funny because we contrast Japan to US and Australia. Every second week in Australia, there is literally some politician coming out on the news. And it doesn't matter. In Australia, we've got Labour and Liberal, same kind of thing. Left wing, right wing. It's the same kind of thing in Australia, right? Same kind of thing. But the problem is, every second week in Australia, there's some politician who's getting caught taking the dirty money, getting caught literally selling out his country, whether it's locally or internationally, selling out their country, also they can make a quick buck. Did you know the Queensland government in Australia, right? The Queensland government was going in, getting loans at higher interest rates than based off the free market, and that said politician then went and worked for the banking sector after that. In any proper society, that is literally criminal activity, right? That is literally insider trading. That's literally a kickback, whatever you want to name it. That's insider trading. Yet it happens in Australia. That's politics. And people just like to categorize it left versus right. And that's what it is nowadays. So it's just like, yeah, I don't want to argue either or. I don't care. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm just like, yo, can we get back to having good values in society? So that's what it is. Anyway, there's my political. If you guys wanted to know, I guess we've gone on this tangent with political politics. We went on this. Yeah, it's, and that's, I read this comment about how the media nowadays, they don't want you to think, they want you to think it's left versus right, when really it's a class war. That's what you're up against now. You're not up against this person having a different political agenda. You're up against a class war now. And that class war is pretty much the poor are getting poorer. The middle class are pretty much dying out. And then the rich are just getting ridiculously rich. And that should be a trend that's pretty obvious if you look at the numbers. So that's where I stand. If you want to know where I stand politically, I look at politics now. I think they're all don't represent what we really need as society going forward. So yeah, lobbying, kickbacks, and that's what I mean. People who look at US politics know it's just as bad as Australian politics. The kickbacks, I think it was, who was Josh Frydenberg? This was an Australian treasurer. He recently got ousted from government. And guess where he went to work? I'll let it, just guess where Josh Frydenberg went. Guess where he went to go work. Just take one guess. I'll leave it with you guys because you'll probably take an easy guess. It's pretty easy. So he got outs from politics. Guess where he went on to? I mean, I think we're low latency, so the viewers should be pretty quick. So, well, RBA. So he went to a bank. Yeah, he went to a bank. That's where he went. Yeah, banking. Exactly. That's what you guys got it. He went to the banking sector. That's yeah. And I mean, would you call his policies top notch? Like, would you say that Josh Frydenberg handled Australia extremely well during the pandemic? I mean, no, he did a terrible job. You know, give him the report card. He fails the report. I mean, this is the thing. And he goes on, gets a, you know, wow. So that's the world nowadays. Anyway, guys, in terms of other questions, that's so, like, in terms of politics, I don't talk about it much, but I guess we're getting to a stage now where someone says, oh, you're sounding like a Republican. It's like, no, I'm not I don't even live in the US. I do follow US politics because it's pretty important to follow politics, especially when it comes to economic policies and financial budgets. That's what you really want to follow. Where is your money getting spent? Because if you're a taxpayer, these people are managing your money. Now, if I asked you guys, okay, each and every one of you, just give me $100, I'm going to manage your money. You'd probably be like, Brian, I ain't giving you $100. Are you out of it? Like, get back to reality. Yet when we hand over taxes, that's exactly what we are doing. We're trusting the money that we've earned to someone else to manage it for us. And hopefully for the greater good, provide us a better service. This is why the serious nature of the system and how serious politics should be taken should be like, it's a serious issue, but no one takes it seriously anymore. It's all memes. Like when Donald Trump was in power in the US, all I saw was memes. All I saw was just memes, constant memes. And I'm like, man, is this how people like really want to like treat their taxpayer dollars? It was insane. And that's where politics has gone. If you look at 100 years ago, being a politician 100 years ago was such a privilege. Like, I think in the 70s it was still a good thing, like from what I researched. But if you were a politician, you had to be responsible. You knew you were managing people's money. But nowadays it's just a joke. It's like, hey, get into politics and who cares? So yeah, anyway, yeah, gross misuse of money. And that's the ultimate goal, is what everyone as a voter of a country shouldn't be about left versus right. It should be about, hey, where's our money getting spent? That should be about politics nowadays. Stop looking at politics and look at the financial side of things, because that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's all finance. It's all money. I take it totally serious. Memes get out of the world very easily. Yeah. Okay, so you guys take it very serious. Trump 2024. The 70s is the last time the politicians had anything in common with voters. Yeah. So after that, like from what I research, after the 70s, things started to go downhill. So how's your dating life in Japan? Cannot confirm. I think cannot confirm nor deny. Are you and your missus back together again? Cannot confirm or deny at this point in time. RTX 2080 for $220 is good. Yep, that's a good deal. I would take that any day of the week. Can you talk about RTX versus AMD again? I missed the start. So in a nutshell, AMD has some really big specs on the horizon. If anything, if we look at the trend on how serious Japan, on how, yeah, all right, we'll call AMD Japan. If we look at how serious Japan is on their traction, they're not very serious. But if we look at AMD in terms of their traction, right, we went from RDNA 1 to RDNA 2, massive. AMD was now back in the game. They're now back competing head to head with Nvidia. And so what we got there is the fact that if we look at that trend on how well they went and how much they came, I would say the next generation of RX 7000 could indeed topple Nvidia. And that would be huge. Like it'd be a different scene altogether. And AMD actually needs that. They need to have a big performance gap. They need to be the winner if they want to reverse that market share where everyone just goes out and buys Nvidia graphics cards. And so that they've got that stigma at the moment where they're just sort of competing, but they need something better. So hopefully they can do that. I'm hoping they can do that. And Tweedle, Japan needs some diversity. You know, buy the 3060 Ti for $500 now or wait. Don't get a 3060 Ti for $500. How close is AMD to getting an NVENC-ish encoder for streaming? I'd say reasonably close. Like, I mean, if you look at the differences now, it's more nitpicking. Like Nvidia's encoder is, in my opinion, the most efficient. It's really good, but in terms of like, if you're making content for YouTube, right? I wouldn't really care if you've got QuickSync, if you've got NVENC, or if you've got AMD's encoder. So I wouldn't really care. Don't care too much about that. In terms of, but making sure you've got the encoder there is an important thing. I'm looking at the 6500 XT right now. 6900 XT or 3080. Man, if they're the same, if they're the exact same price, like if you have to go out and get one, I'd actually go for the 6900 XT. So if you had to go out and get one. So just basically like, and the thing is you can get a 6900 XT for extremely cheap. I'd actually buy a nice, like try with the 6900 XT, not hating on the reference model, but I thought Nvidia did a better job with their founders cards than AMD did with their founders cards. So I would go for the, I'd go for an aftermarket 6900 XT in those two cases. Unless of course you can get the $500 3080 that we saw in the chat before. Is a 450 watt power supply enough for an RTX 3060 single fan mini RTX build? Yeah, definitely. Especially if you undervolt too. You can undervolt the 3060 as well if you're worried. Make sure it's a good 450 watt power supply. Make sure it's good. So make sure that's the most important thing. If you're putting in like a 450 watt thermal take, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a model of the thermal take 450 watt that has like this coil whine, and it's like the worst coil whine ever. I think it was like this white, it's got this white sticker and this white silver base. It's the worst power supply like I've ever used in terms of consistency, or inconsistency. Hey Brian, how's it hanging? Yeah, pretty good, little to the left. Thermal take is a bit trashy, right? No, they make some good higher end power supplies. I found they make some really good higher end power supplies. Spacebar WASSD, recognize me senpai. Hi. Hi, Kohai. Nande shoka. Nandeska. What should we do? What should we do, man? Do you agree Sapphire made the best AMD GPUs? Yeah, I would say Sapphire on point. There are some other good models out there. How good are Thermaltake smart supplies? Mediocre. Okay, so you guys are starting to go. We're going down the weeb tangent now. Guys, as much as I love Japan, I love speaking Japanese, and I watch anime as well. Like I'm watching this Attack on Titans, really good anime. Like I'm watching some anime right now, but I'm not into that. Like there's a massive culture, like you know, fully body pillows and stuff. That's not my thing. So if we start going like Nanio and like speaking anime Japanese, you're gonna lose me a little bit there, guys. Even though you can learn, like if you're trying to learn Japanese, try not to learn it from anime. That's all I'd say. Like otherwise you're gonna be walking on the streets in Japan and people are just gonna look at you, bro, and they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like it's really gonna be just out there, okay? So don't watch anime and try to learn. Brocky's thoughts. Thanks for becoming a member, brother. Don't watch anime and then go to Japan and be like speaking like those people on anime, because like if you like my little son, he's watching the Japanese anime, man, and he's laughing because it's a comedy. Like part of anime and part of the way they say stuff, even if they're meant to be serious on the anime, it's meant to actually be comedy, like the way they say it, like, you know. So yeah, Oni-chan, like no one says that stuff, like no, yeah. So don't come over and like say, you know, you're talking to someone's family and then you're like, oh hey Oni-chan, genki desu ka? The family's just gonna look at you and be like, oh crap, man, like where did this guy learn this Japanese? So when you're coming to Brazil, Brian, I'd love to go to Brazil. I don't know when though. There's no there's no outlook on the horizon. Do you know any jutsu? Oh, like the Naruto? Nah, don't know any jutsu, man. I know eco jutsu, like economics jitsu. That's probably the one. So we got and a $10 dono from Peter. Thanks, brother. Aussie as well. I've been an Nvidia guy forever because I had a bad experience with my RX 10 years ago. because of game stability. I want to replace my RTX 2070 and I am conflicted. Just wait at the moment, wait at the moment, wait at the moment. Trust me guys, when GPUs are flooding properly in the market, you're going to see tech yes like clickbait thumbnail, clickbait face. You're going to see all that stuff in the title and thumbnail. I'm going to be like the whole title will be in caps. Go buy your GPUs now. Like I'll be making those videos. When's a good time to buy? Just based on, because like if you guys didn't know, 2018, 2019, I was buying up so many used GPUs, and we had this little like cluster of hustlers on the Gold Coast, and we snagged up all these used GPUs. They were all gone, like because the prices were so good, right? In Australia, we were picking up 1070 Ti's at one stage for 100 USD back in 2019. So like you tell me if that's a good deal. Even to this date, $100 USD for a 1070 Ti is a good deal, right? So that's how cheap GPUs can get. People just like, these guys just want to clear out the shed. They might be renting space. Like some of these miners might be renting space. Like if they're renting commercial mining space to mine crypto, they're going to have to close down that commercial space if they shut off the miners. So what do they want to do? They just want to absolutely clear out these graphics cards. Fire sale. Has the fire sale begun yet? No, I don't think it's begun yet. So that was that. When that comes, again, you're going to get clickbait. You're going to get, it might even be clickbait, right? It'll just be, I guess, I'm going to call it sensationalized titles. Because it's not be clickbait, it's going to be real bait. I guess, yeah, real bait. We'll call it real bait, sensationalized titles. You'll get real bait thumbnails, real bait titles, just real bait. That's what we got. We're going with that word. There we go. New word, baby. Real bait. Not clickbait, because it ain't going to be clickbait. It's going to be real bait. And when that comes, guys, go buy your GPUs and go get good deals on them. And that's what'll happen. Because I love each and every one of you guys. You guys are like brothers to me. And you can get a all right. I'm not saying that on live stream. You guys in chat are being naughty. Master debate. We'll say a master debate. That's all. Was the heat wave in Japan really bad? Yeah, Japan's weather is up and down. Japan's summers, like, this is the thing about Japan's summers. They always suck. Japan's summers are so humid. They always suck. So, like, you know, even I was talking to people over here. If you want to get away, if you're in Japan and you want to get away from the Japanese summer, you just go up to like Sapporo or Hokkaido. If you go to those two areas, you can escape the heat. So yeah, I mean, it is really hot in summer. And I think, yeah, we're moving on to August. August is like the worst month in Japan for the heat wave. So I'm not looking forward to next month because this month's already been pretty bad. So that's what we got there. Should go to Twitch. Heard his comment before. Should stream to Twitch. At the moment, guys, I will look into that. Honestly, I think I'd need like a junior to come and help me out with some, like, take all the like, I just don't have enough time really to do anything besides YouTube and then family. So that's about it. So in terms of Twitch streaming, I mean, we're just using the YouTube platform as a streaming platform. So hopefully that can do what it is. In terms of, yeah, you can make hella cash on Twitch. In terms of making cash, man, like, you know, 10 years ago, the Brian in me was so money hungry. Now I'm just like not that hungry. I mean, believe it or not, I'm not that hungry for money. It's sort of weird. I don't know, maybe just in your 30s, you start like prioritizing what life's all about. Your DNA starts to degrade. This is true stuff, right? So I think 25 to 28 is when, after that, your DNA starts to degrade. It's like, so like, you want to enjoy your life. You want to start enjoying your life and what you've got. Because, you know, like, you can just keep working all your life, get to 60, have all this money, but your quality of life's actually going to suck. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So I was like, nah, man, healthy, all good to go. You know, can still give out many a tech yes loving. I'm still, you know, as opposed to if I was 60 tech yes, 60-year-old tech yes, you're not going to be able to do that much tech yes loving. So you still give out the tech yes loving, you still do this, you can still do that. So you might as well enjoy it. So how old are you, Brian? I'm 36 now. So I'm 36. How do you fight the inflation? Buy crypto. No, don't buy crypto. Do not buy crypto. At the moment, the inflation... Okay, TYC and Dr. Disrespect are the only decent things to watch on YouTube. Thanks, man. You couple me in with one of the big greats. So how do you fight inflation? So the problem is at the moment is this inflation is so bizarre because no one actually knows. And this is why it's called the inflationary depression, because what you're seeing with the inflation right now is how much of this inflation now is being caused by the artificial choking of supply chains, right? How much of this inflation is coming from shutting down pipelines, putting on like if you guys didn't know, this inflation goes much deeper than just what you're seeing on the surface. What you've got is regulations from government are stopping new investments in the energy sector. They're stopping new investments in various different industries that stop the cure for inflation. And what's the cure for inflation? Less money printing, but also producing more stuff. You produce more stuff, there's your cure for inflation. So what you've got at the moment is, even if they're reducing the cash, technically if you're destroying money and you've got this massive debt tsunami and interest rates are going up, that's deflationary in nature. But on the same token, if you can cut the supply of those current goods that are out on the market, and you can cut them faster than the money supply is being cut, then technically prices are going to go up. And in this case, there's actually going to be nowhere to friggin' run. That's the scary thing. There's actually going to be nowhere to run in this inflationary depression. As much as you want to hear it from other YouTubers, or especially finance channels, or buy this stock, buy that stock, buy this stock, this industry is going to take off, that industry is going to take off, it may not be the case. And that's the sad thing. So from what I'm seeing is just a gradual crash and burn of everything. And in ways, if you relate that to the Great Reset, that follows hand in hand with what will happen with the Great Reset. You drop the money supply, but you also drop the supply of goods and services. And then you offer the solution, right? So yeah, I mean, gold and silver, if you want to go back, I mean, this is the scary thing. Do you go back to burning firewood? You know, do we go back to trading in silver coins and burning firewood again? Like, oh man. I mean, look, it's hard, right? It goes back to a hard drive versus an SSD. Imagine having to use a hard drive in your main system now. A lot of us couldn't do it. We've gotten accustomed to a lot of these new age technology, I guess, or conveniences. We've gotten used to a lot of these new age conveniences. And so losing them, what's that going to spell for the world? So yeah, that depression meaning might have quite a few fronts. That's all. So prices, performance, YouTube cameras. So best, if you guys are getting into YouTube, find some banger 1080p cameras, man. 1080p camera and lens. So get some banger 1080p camera and lens. I bought gold at 2K per Oz and silver $24 per Oz derp. Don't be like, okay, so don't be alarmed. Like if you, say for instance, if you're buying metals and inflation gets too bad, right? The thing is, metals are going to be cut off in supply as well. Like everything's going to be cut off in supply. So metals will retain their value a lot better in a deflationary environment than, say for instance, Tesla stock. So it's just weird how the whole world, I mean, again, they say history rhymes and doesn't repeat. All I know from history is that what it looks like, if you guys have researched Rome, this is weird. It's meant to be a tech live stream. Oh man. Let me just take a break here for a sec. Have a sip, because why are we going down Rome on a tech live stream? But we'll go with Rome, okay? Let's go down Rome. We'll go down the history of Rome, and then we'll compare it to the modern day right now. And we're going to see the biggest correlation here, which is what I think. Just let me have a sip. Okay, so if you look at what was documented in Rome before Rome collapsed, what happened was it was documented that society started getting out of control. In other words, censoring, people couldn't say certain things, they couldn't do certain things. Methods of the free market were completely shut down in Rome. They had the exact same inflation problems as well. They had all these problems, and this is going back quite a long time ago, right? Thousands of years ago. We're going back to Rome. And all these problems that we saw are coming to fruition now. What are we seeing in the world, right? We're seeing news that comes out and you're literally just scratching your head at this news. Like, let's take a look at the most recent article. Changing the definition of a recession. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, guys, the economy's not in recession because the unemployment is going down. Yeah, with duped numbers because the actual workforce is going down. So we're seeing that. We're seeing the definition of the V word. I'm not going to say that. We're seeing the definition of the V word coming out. I mean, look at this virus, right? Look at this virus and look at the stupidity surrounding it. Every day I roll my eyes. They've literally got people on TV now telling you these certain things that protect you against a virus don't work, and people are still going out there and getting them. I just don't understand. I really don't understand. But to me, it's making no logical sense. So when an economy is not running on logic, it's going to collapse. That's all I say. Rome wasn't running on logic before it collapsed. Rome wasn't running on logic before it collapsed. And guess what? It collapsed. Australia, America, especially America, it's not running on logic anymore. It's not running on logic. And that's the problem. People want it to run on logic. I want the world to run on logic, but it's not running on logic anymore. And when you don't run on logic, you collapse. That's all it is. So it's like me eating pizza and drinking beer every day. If that's all I drank, right? It's not logical for me to drink beer as my main source of fluids and eat pizza as my main source of food. I'm going to collapse. Same kind of thing. So the economies are running on pizza and beer right now. And that's all it is. And you've got to get back to the economies running on water and healthy food. So anyhow, if we look at the politicians in America, I mean, you've got people who can't even walk properly representing your country now. And like, suffice to say, if you went back 50 years and you went back 100 years and you just showed this scenario to the people back in those days, they would have outed those people in politics straight away. That's the thing. And nowadays, you can't do anything, otherwise you'll end up in jail. Anyway, it's a scary world, but yeah, I kind of want to get back to I want to get back to positive news, guys. I want to get back to positive news. YouTube's, I don't know what YouTube's censoring nowadays, but yeah, at the end of the day, I guess in ways, I've been getting a bit tired with what I'm seeing develop in 2022. I'm just getting tired of constantly being fed total garbage on the news. I constantly get fed total garbage, and it's just like it just makes me scratch my head now. And a lot of people, like, don't worry, if you're out there and you read something on the news and you're like, that doesn't make any sense at all, you're not alone. Do not worry, you are not alone, guys. You are not alone. So yeah. And yeah, so the ship is and yeah, now we're on this roller coaster ride, and it's like, hey, can I get off this roller coaster ride, please? Can I get off this roller coaster ride? And the politicians are like, no, you've got to stay on this roller coaster. And we put it together in a day. There's massive heavy wind conditions. You've got to stay on this. So are you using any OLEDs in your current studio? So who owns all the news media outlets? Yeah. What gel do you use, Brian? Gatsby. Yeah, how did you know, Spacebar? Wow, I'm pretty sure it is Gatsby. I got the Gatsby deodorant and the Gatsby hair gel. And Japan's actually got some really good stuff going on here when it comes to self-hygiene. Yeah, so anyway, guys, so we got, are you using OLEDs in my current studio? No, so what happened was we got over here, I got over to Japan, and the ex and the boy were using like this 32-inch, like old school, crappy monitor, TV, and I was like, man, you know, my boy, if he's watching, you know, anime and watching movies, and he's got to watch it in style. So we went out and bought a used LG C9 for, I think it was at the time, $450 US. It was really cheap, extremely cheap. Got an absolute deal on a 55-inch OLED, and that's got the gloss screen. Now, what happened was with that, was we got that back to their place, and I was like, oh, I'd love to get one of these in my studio. But then I had this I remembered back to using an OLED in Australia. Dude, Yusuf, you can attest to this because you've seen me. Using OLEDs are too addictive, and that's the problem, especially the gloss OLEDs. I was using the OLED, I got way too addicted to video games, and I had to stop. That was my own personal reason for stopping to use OLEDs. Now, LG sent over that matte screen. They sent over the matte screen OLED, and I tell you, I think they put on too much of a matte coating. Like, I think the matte coating on that OLED's too strong. And to the point where I've actually had to turn up sharpness on that OLED, and I actually don't like it. I like the gloss. So I've sort of been like keeping just this setup to a basic minimum because I don't want to get addicted to video games again. Because yeah, I mean, no one's perfect. My weakness is that in the past I've been very addicted to video games, and working with technology, like working with the same thing you're addicted to, it's very hard to beat that addiction. So it's basically like me being addicted to cigarettes and then having a cigarette in my mouth and not lighting it up, right? Like, you've never seen that before. But if we were to describe an addiction to PC gaming to a person who has to use computers every day as part of my job, it's not good. So like, so that's my problem, right? OLED just makes video games too good. So I've decided not to use. If you guys if you want to lose yourself, if you want to forget the world exists, completely lose yourself in PC gaming, go get an OLED gloss like a CX, a C1, a C9, or a BX. Go get a really nice graphics card. You can lose yourself for days, if not years. So, you know, and yeah, the analogy is, imagine someone trying to quit cigarettes and they're having a cigarette in their mouth the whole time. Not an easy thing to do. What do you think? Should I still wait with my 1080 Ti for the next generation or pull the trigger on the 6900 XT? Yeah, video games can be addicting for sure, man. Thanks. I'd wait. 1080 Ti, great card. Wait until we see the next gen. And also wait in general, because I think that wait until the flood comes. So that's the advice we were talking about before. Wait until this flood of GPUs properly hits the market. It's coming. It's only a matter of time. So only a matter of time. As the, back to the, what was it, Game of Thrones, he's holding the door. What's he holding the door? A Braveheart? They're all holding right until the end. That's what we've got to do right now as PC gamers, just hold. So, hold. do my live stream, hold the door. Hold on. That's right. Hold the door. Ah, man. Game of Thrones, that's it. Hold on. Yeah. Can't relate. I barely use my OLED because I don't find myself addicted to games easily. Much rather only play with friends, so I have to wait until they're done from work. See, Yusuf, you've got your brain is structured in a different way. I do envy that. That is good. But I'm only using an RX 570. Dude, you can game on an RX 570. Like, seriously guys, 1080p 60 FPS. I can do 1080p 60 FPS. I can do 1080p 60 FPS for 8 hours a day if I didn't want a life. You know what I mean? I can do that. Absolutely fine. So why play multiplayer gambling parlors? Loot boxes are crap. I don't do any like actual gambling. Man, that can get really bad. Like, at least with video games, it's not really an expensive addiction. Like, if you're addicted to video games, it's actually not such a expensive addiction, really. I mean, Jensen, look, let's be honest, Jensen and Lisa, they're trying to make it an expensive hobby. They're trying to make it an expensive addiction. RTX 30, yeah. So, Sergi, thanks for the $199. Why does 2080 SLI have more power than 3090 Ti? Depends on the game. I mean, that really depends on the game. So you'd be looking at only just a few games, and it might be slightly faster off the top of my head. You'd have to utilize those games in a perfect way, but that's kind of like how you can start thinking of glued together GPU dies. It's coming back. So, yes, it is. Okay, a full decked out character in the new Diablo Immortal Maxed costs $500,000. Wait. Are you serious? Okay, so I play like video games now. I play less. Like I'll sometimes play video games here and there. I play less video games now. I'm just sort of, guys, I just got to take a moment. Like there's $500,000 on a character in Diablo Immortal. If I had a keyboard here, I'd look that up. Whoa, okay. I cannot believe that, man. Why would someone pay $500,000 for a character? Like, you could get a fully decked out, I mean, back in the day, you could get a fully decked out WoW account for like $1,000 or something. You know what I mean? Like, or $2,000. Like 500 grand for an account's insane. Like, that, like, you could turn that into a career. Wow. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I mean, right? That means that money itself has become quite a bit worthless. If someone's spending $500,000 on a character, might be Elon's son, just be like, yo, dad, I want to get this character, $500,000. Yeah, son, that's just chump change. Take it out of the quick wallet. RX 6600 is between 5600 XT and 5700. Hey man, he's still in Japan with your son. Glad to hear you're getting a chance. Yeah, so I'm with my son. The new Jurassic World comes out today. So we're going to go see the new Jurassic World. He loves Jurassic Park. So that new movie comes out today. We got the popcorn. We got the new Jurassic World movie. We're going to go see that. And don't worry, guys, it won't be $500,000 like the Diablo Immortal character. Yeah, I mean, no game would be worth that much to me, hey. So on the LTT news, someone calculated it came to 250k, but then the creators pointed out they missed a whole level. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I thought Diablo sort of lost its appeal after Diablo 3. If you guys came from original Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 2 was so good. Like, Diablo 2 was really good. And then I went to Diablo 3 and I just got put off because the mechanics was so much like more basic. I thought Diablo 2 was really good in its mechanics and how they made the game. And then Diablo 3 was just like, yeah, I didn't really get it. I played through it, like enjoyed it, but I just didn't see the replayability. Like the replayability just wasn't there. So that's why I sort of like Diablo 2 was amazing. So I really liked what they did with Diablo 2. I was always Paladin. I love Paladin, man. Pally class. That's why I'm waiting for Baldur's Gate 3 to introduce Paladin. So, LTT news. Okay, you should play House Party. D2R, baby. Yep. Okay, so, alright, so when is the 7900 XT released? That should be later on this year. I believe Q4 is looking like it's a solid release date. So, there we go, guys. And reminiscing. So we went through all the highs and all the lows here on a Tech Yes City live stream. This is, you guys tune into it, man. I don't know where we go on these live streams, and I've got to go out soon so to make some lunch. But hey, Brian, currently living near Tokyo right now. Do you have any recommendations on used gaming laptops in Japan? So from what we're seeing, actually, Mike's in chat. Mike Bros was telling me that laptops are actually looking like they're coming in with an oversupply. So you could be expecting, just like the used GPUs, you could be expecting quite a good deal on used laptops in the next coming months. So stay tuned, track your favorite laptops. I would say in the next couple of months, track your favorite laptop and just look for a great deal and you'll be able to get something. And also the problem with laptops as well, when you look at laptops, you got to not look at the model names, just look at the performance. So look at the performance and make sure that you're getting a good deal for your money. Because I know there's like there was like a 3050 on the laptop that had 3 different models of 3050. One of them was like a dog. The other 2 were pretty good, I think. Or 3060. It might have been the 3060. So why are new graphics cards so expensive in Japan? I don't see the effect of the Nvidia. Yeah, so I was going to do a video on China, but I was also going to mix in with that video why GPU prices are going to come down more. And the reason why GPUs will come down more is because the DXY. So go look at the strength of the United States dollar. That is why new GPUs won't be coming down in prices in a lot of countries but the US. So as those prices come down in the US, they'll start to come down in other countries. But because the dollar's so strong right now, prices are only coming down in the US, if that makes any sense. Basically, once those prices fall more in the US, because again, there's only so many people in the US that are willing to buy a graphics card. Once the oversupply in the US starts to catch on to the rest of the world, then the prices will drop in US dollars, then that'll flow through to Japan, that'll flow through to the UK, that'll flow through to Australia on new pricing. Even though I feel like new pricing in Australia has actually been pretty consistently good compared to the rest of the world, I think Japan, definitely on new GPUs, it's not a good time to buy. Used GPUs though, if you are in Japan at the moment, I would definitely recommend going to Tokyo, going to some of like Skumo, going to DOS Pata, going to buy some of those deals on RTX 2000 series cards, because we're getting some really good deals. Hugh with the $2. Thanks for the clutch $2 dono. Happy for you. Enjoy your time with your son. Definitely am, brothers. And thanks for tuning in as well. Actually, got to close this one out. So if you guys have any like pressing questions like, Brian, I need to know the meaning of life or anything like that, just before we close out the live stream, go for it. Go hit it in the comments. Otherwise, we're going to go tax ourselves out of here. I'm going to tax myself off the live stream. Global chip shortage may soon turn into an oversupply crisis. Exactly. There was never really, in essence, a chip shortage when it came to GPUs. The actual GPUs shipments themselves were at record highs coming out of 2020, going into 2021. Nvidia couldn't make enough of these graphics cards. More than they made in 2019, more than they made in 2018, more than they made in 2017. The GPU numbers, the volumes of GPUs getting shipped, it wasn't classically a shortage in that sense. That's like, for instance, if we saw new cars, there kind of was in certain areas of new cars, there were shortages. But if we look at the GPUs themselves, the shortage was just really massive money printing, which led to crypto mining boom, which led to these inefficient cryptocurrencies, which led to people buying up the graphics cards to then make profit. And it's funny because people will argue that the free market is a bad thing. No, the free market, if you let the free market take care of itself, it's fixing all these problems that the governments and central banks caused. So now that the central bank, the Federal Reserve, has stepped out of the way, and now that they've stopped printing money and they're actually raising interest rates, now that they're actually kind of, I wouldn't say they're doing their job, because I think they need to raise their interest rates a lot more and get rid of reverse repo as well. I'd say they need to do their job a lot better. Once they start doing their job or getting out of the way, the free market starts to heal itself. And what a beautiful thing it is to see these graphics cards finally come back down to sane prices, to normal prices. So isn't that a funny thing? So LTT and J's 2 cents. GN has vids on SLI in 2022. All say it's not worth it. Yeah, I think I did 2080 as well in SLI. It was fun, it was cool, but it wasn't worth it. So Brian, if my eyes were like yours, I would never wear sunglasses in my life, because I'd like people to see that, especially girls. Thanks, Raph. Bro, that was a nice comment. Thanks, man. Like, I'm gonna end the live stream on that note. Raph, you just made my day, man. Put a smile on my face. Thanks, brother. It's a nice thing to say, Raph. Awesome, man. All right, guys, I'm gonna close off this live stream. Such a lovely, what a brother. Raph, you're a brother. All right, I'm gonna get on out of here. We're gonna get some. I'm gonna get I got the choice between chicken or a Hamburg steak. or a chicken for $5 lunch at the diner? What do you guys think we do? Just let us know, chicken or hamburger. Before we go, I want to see where the majority of you guys leaning. Go for chicken, bro. All right, people are saying the hamburger. Okay, it's a 1-1. A ramen. Okay, ramen ain't on the $5 menu, brother. Go with the hamburger. All right, people. It's close here. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. I am gonna play rock scissors paper with my kid, and one of us is gonna be hamburger, the other is gonna be chicken. So whoever wins, we're gonna let fate decide with rock scissors paper. So. All right, guys. Love each and every one of you. Thanks for tuning into the Tech Yes live stream. And when we come back, also, I forgot to plug the sponsors as well. I don't have a keyboard. If you guys want a $14 SCD key, Windows 10, Windows 11 works for Windows 11, go check out sponsors in the description below. And also Corsair, if you want an easy mic, go get the Wave 3. You can get into streaming and decent audio. No hassles, even though I'm going to be making a video on used audio and stuff like that. You guys have requested that. We'll be getting into that. Thanks for tuning in. Love each and every one of you guys. Always stay humble, keep the logic, fellas. They can never take your logic away from you. Peace out for now. Bye.